All right, table number 3, multi-page. I think we'll do this one, and then we'll jump to the form, and then we'll come back and do, right? Because that maybe the form, and then I will knock these out because these will be easy, and then footnote maybe. So it's kind of where I'm headed. All right. Go ahead and open it up, Common Look, if you haven't already. Yeah, number 3. Because we're going to do extra stuff on this besides just the table spanning multiple pages as well. Are we all there? Okay. So a little bit of remediator's choice here first. If you're looking at the document, right at the top you see this first table, additions to prior authorization, and then you got your column headers and so on, right? But in the tag tree, I moved the additions to prior authorization out of the table, made it a heading level 2, right? And then the next H2 is additions to step therapy, and the next H2 is additions to quantity level limits. That's entirely to help with the navigation, finding the information that you want in the document faster, right? If you don't know that the information that you want is in a table, you don't know to search for the correct table, first of all, right? Second of all, if you leave it in the table, you search, and you know it's in a table. Okay, so you're searching table by table. You're like, here's this first table. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. You go to the next table. It starts reading the table. That's not the one I wanted either, right? But if you put it in a heading level, here's this one. Nope, that's not what I care about. Here's this one. Nope, don't care about that either. Here's the next one. Ah, that's what I wanted. And then they can play that information below, whether it's in a table or a list or just in paragraphs or whatever, right? So that's kind of why I did that. Now, that being said, remember the buttons down here at the bottom, right, for single page scrolling? Might want to turn that one on, the second little page icon down there, so that we can scroll across the page break, right? So at the top of the second page, it says additions to quantity level limit continued, right? Pretty much anything that says continued, you can just artifact, because we're going to make this one long table. Somebody using a screen reader doesn't know that the page turned, right? So we don't need to say, hey, table's continuing now. Just let it read the table, right? So one easy way to find this is just highlight it in the physical view. It's this H2 right here, right? And then just delete it, right? Hit the delete key or right click and choose untag to artifact that, right? Right above that is the paragraph tag that has the page numbers, right? So we can delete that one too, right? We don't need page numbers read. Now, the next paragraph tag, right, where these tables get broken, is this key down at the bottom of the page, right? Now, there's a whole bunch of accessibility problems with this key. First of all, looking at it in the physical view, what checkpoint fails? Contrast, right? You got light gray on white. That's not easy to read, right? Second, this document, even though it's black and white, fails the color check, because bold lowercase print means generic drugs and uppercase print means brand name drugs. But a screen reader is not going to tell you that you're reading bold lowercase words, and even if it did, it's not going to tell you what that means, right? It's not going to tell you that it's reading all capped words either, right? Now, some screen readers have actually started to put a little bit of a pitch change in, so that when it gets to all capped words, there's a little bit of a, right, a little bit of a pitch, which is interesting, but it still doesn't convey the information that this is all caps or that it's a brand name drug or whatever. You know, when you're texting or you're emailing and it's in all caps and you're like yelling at someone, right? So you get here, and while this might be a cool drug name, I like this one. I don't know what it does, but it just sounds like fun. Why is my screen reader yelling Roxaset at me? Like, whoa, right? Or why is it yelling Valium? Shouldn't it be like Valium? Right? I don't know, but right? So there's issues going on over here. So we're going to fix not only this table spanning multiple pages, but we're going to address some of those other color issues as well. I've also mentioned color with things like blue and green and black and red struck through and all that stuff too, right? So are you still using Change Pro? Good. Okay. All right, so let's deal with the table spanning multiple pages first, and then we'll deal with some of those color issues as well. By the way, because we're going to deal with those color issues, we don't need a screen reader to read the key at the bottom of the page. So I'm also going to delete that paragraph tag that holds all the stuff in that key, right? So now you have the last two table tags in your document are, is for the table where it spans across the page break, right? So in the second of those two, right, on the second page of the same table, notice that when you select that table tag, the column headers get selected, right? Yeah. So we don't want the column headers to get read halfway through the table. They're going to be read at the top of the table, right? Because we're going to tag up our table correctly. So open up your table tag, choose the first table row, the TR tag. It's got the column headers highlighted, right? And then just hit the delete key and untag it, right? So now your first table row is Roxaset and so on, okay?
When you said untag it, what does it mean? You can untag or delete.
Untag means it's artifacted. So the screen reader is not going to read it.
Okay. So okay. Once you delete it, it's automatically untagged?
Yep. Okay. Yep. The delete key is the keyboard shortcut to untag, okay, to artifact stuff. Right. Yep. Okay. So remembering that selection order matters, right? Choose the first of those two table tags that we're talking about, right? Technically, it's the third one in your tag tree. And then hold down Control or Shift and select the last one, right? Now, if I right-click, notice that Merge Tags became Merge Tables, right? And there's a sub-menu here. I can either add columns or add rows. Adding rows makes your table longer. Add columns makes your table wider. So if you have, your document looks like, opens up like this, right? And you've got a table spanning across 2 pages wide, you would want to add columns, right? For this, just adding rows, right? So we want to choose add rows here, right? Then, of course, you want to open your table editor and make sure that everything looks right. And you've got your column headers and all that good stuff, and so on, right? Okay. I'm going to undo that just to help make the point. So if I select the tables in the wrong order and then I merge them, right, adding rows, it still looks like I've got the table put together correctly, right? But when I open the table editor, I quickly realize, oops, right? Because I merged the bottom one and then the top one. Okay, so another reason why you would open your table editor. Now it's fixed, right? Okay. Any questions on the table spanning multiple pages? The important points are to artifact the column headers where they repeat. Now, what can get a little bit dicey is if you have a row header that spans multiple rows up here, and then you've got the row header down here, and it's like same row header continued, right? You would artifact the same row header continued part, but this one, you would need bigger row span when it's all said and done, right? You get into your table editor, and you'd have to make that row span wider. Okay, so other things to consider. Okay, so we're good as far as the table is concerned, right? All right, so yeah.
So why we artifacted page 5, would it be helpful for us here?
No.
Like we're almost through the document.
No, not really. People who are using screen readers don't really care about what page they're on. right? And in fact, now if we had done this, do you remember from before? There's the pagination artifact. Do you remember that? Okay. People who really know how to use their screen readers really well, and even people who are blind, there's varying levels of like what expert user are they with their screen reader, right? But if you use one of the other advantages, if we use the pagination artifact feature here to artifact all of the page numbers in the document, even though they're artifacted, they're untagged so that people don't get them, because you don't need page 5 of 6 in the middle of your table, right? So, so generally we artifact them. But if somebody knows how to use their screen reader really well, and if you've used the pagination thing, even if the page numbers are untagged, somebody can use their screen reader to find, they can search for like footer pagination artifacts and find page numbers, and then they can find where page 5 of 6 is if they wanted to read just that page, right? But in reality, somebody who's reading this document probably is just going to look for the information on additions to quantity level limits and then read that information.
And on a follow-up question, I understand why you did the 3 header 2 so that they can scan the document more quickly, but doesn't that mean when they're listening to the table, they won't go back to the screen reader won't go back to the first table header, because that's no longer a table header, it's H2.
So I'm not understanding. So we're talking about like the H2s.
Well, we were talking about recursive headers and tables, how screen readers will do the therapy class drug, but then also tie it back to that top header. So now that we're using that addition to step therapy program as H2 and no longer as a table header, their screen reader won't read it like that.
Right.
And
Right, it
that's
won't.
a judgment call.
What's that?
And that's just like a judgment call.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, if somebody's listening, so this one's short, might not be so bad, but this one's a long table, right? So remember that column headers get read with every data cell. So does somebody really need to hear additions to quantity level limits, description, this? Additions to quantity level limits, description, that. Addition to limits, right? So they're just going to hear description, this, description, that, right? That's enough, right? So yeah, also, so that you're not making it painfully redundant and to help in the navigation, right, to just find it. Okay. Did that make sense? Okay. Any other questions with this? All right, so we'll switch gears a little bit and we'll do a little bit of find and replace. Now yesterday we would have done the easy find and replace and we'll build on today, so we're going to do this find and replace. We'll do the easy find and replace later when that document comes back, actually. So anyways, so things like PA, which stands for prior authorization required, QLL, which stands for quantity level limits apply, right, as kind of seen in our bad contrast key down at the bottom, right, that's that other information, right. When a screen reader is reading through the table, we don't want it necessarily to say QLL. We want it to indicate that quantity level limits apply to this drug, right? But instead of having to search for every QLL and replace it individually, we can do kind of a more global find and replace, right, which speeds up stuff like this. So going back to the first document that we worked on yesterday, remember there was DEQ in a number of places? We could search for DEQ and then give it, you know, alt text DEQ instead of DEC or Department of Environmental Quality or whatever we wanted to do, right? So to do find and replace, go to the Windows tab, and then the fourth button from the left is find and replace. So hit that, right? Now you're on the find tab, so go one tab over and hit replace. All right, so you're on the replace tab. Okay? Are you with me so far? There's going to be a bunch of steps, so I'm going to check in and make sure that you're with me so I don't lose you. If I lose you, flail. So find what? Type in all caps QLL. Right? And then replace with, I'm just going to type in quantity level limits apply. Okay? Replace by alt text is fine. Okay. Don't check the checkbox for add replacement text. We'll come back to that though. Okay. So now, do you see below there where it says find options? Click the little caret next to that. You get that to open up. Okay. So we don't want to find necessarily every QLL in the entire document. We just want to find QLLs in our tables, right? So where it says search in all tags or selected tags, first of all, select a tag. So go over to the tag tree and select your table, right? Now, if we wanted to do all of the QLLs in all of the tables, we could select all of the table tags. I'm just going to choose one. So I'm choose one table tag. And then in the find options section, choose the radio button for selected tags, right? To limit, I want to find QLL just in that table. This is another really handy one, the checkbox for match only if within a single tag, right? Check that checkbox because this way, if you have a Q and an L in this cell, and then you have an L over here in this cell, right? It could find QLL, right, and replace it with quantity level limits applied. But if we limit it to only searching in one tag at a time, it's going to look for QLL here. And then it's going to look for it here separately, right, and not combine things that shouldn't be combined, okay? So especially in tables, that's really handy. And let's see, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I think for this example, we're good. So maybe sounds a little weird, but hit find next. And it found QLL, right? Great. If it's correct, hit replace, right? I take a little bit slower here. I'm not going to hit replace all because I want to make sure that I'm not changing any QLLs that I don't really mean to change. So hit replace, and it finds the next one, right? Cool. So if it's correct, hit replace, and you just keep on going through, right? Now here it gets a little bit weird. So I'm on oxycodone right on this cell, and I'm going to hit replace, but I think what happens is it goes just to the next cell. So you got to be aware, and like I might have to go back and fix a couple, but fixing a couple is better than having to fix them all individually, right? So when you hit replace, it did. I would have to go back until I work my way through the rest of the table, and then common tells you it reach the ending of the search. Again, messages to reword. But okay, so hit OK. Now, if you look over in your tag tree, you have a span tag, right? So I just randomly picked this one. It's the one with Valium where I left off. Now, with that span tag selected, notice in the properties panel over on the right-hand side, there's your alt text, quantity level limits applied. So when a screen reader lands on QLL, instead of reading QLL, it's going to say quantity level limits applied. That make sense? So span tags, we're going to use these a number of times today. Span tags are great little generic tags for manipulating how something gets read. Okay? For example, QLL as quantity level limits applied, right, instead of QLL. If, Tony and I were talking about this earlier, if you run OCR on a document and OCR doesn't recognize the words all correctly, right, sometimes, letters will get seen just as special characters or whatever. You can take those words that don't get recognized well, put them in a span tag, and then type in the word that it should have been. It's labor intensive, but that way it gets read right. Exactly. All right, so there's QLL, quantity level limits applied. We would do the same thing for PA, for prior authorization. We would do the same thing for ST, for step therapy. Okay? To take this to the next level of complexity, right, we've got these generic drugs that are in lowercase bold, right? So I'm going to go back way up in the top of my tag tree, right? Go back up to the table tag that we started working with, right? Make sure that you select the table tag, because if we do another search and we search for selected tags, but you have one of those span tags selected, not going to find lowercase bold, which is our next thing in the span tag that only contains QLL, right? So make sure you select your table tag. This is another little pro tip for you. I've seen this be helpful. Follow me on the whole process here. Choose all tags and then choose selected tags again. It kind of resets stuff, right? So choose that and then back to selected tags. Now, in the find what box, right, trust the process. Anybody familiar with wildcards? You know what that is? Yes, no, maybe. We're going to use wildcards. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Yeah, all right. So get rid of QLL and type in an asterisk. Because with wildcards, an asterisk means everything. We're going to limit that so we're not actually finding everything. Replace with, we want to change quantity level limits to generic drug. Okay. The next thing is now we do want to check the checkbox for add replacement text to the find text, right? So what are we going to find? We're going to find lowercase bold generic drugs, right? We're going to replace that with generic drug, but we don't want to completely replace it because we want people to know what the drug name is, but we want them to know that it's a generic drug, right? If we didn't check that checkbox, it would take out the drug name and just say generic drug, right? So that's the difference. Remediator's choice here, you can choose after or before, right? If you make that window, yours is probably wide enough already, you can see it. So there's after or before. So you can make it say generic drug, blah, or blah generic drug, right? Whatever. I'm just going to leave it where it is. And then where it says use, right? Check the checkbox for use, and then open up that drop-down menu and choose wildcards. So we're not literally searching for an asterisk. The wildcard asterisk means find everything. Okay, and then open up the little font options caret, and you get to limit your search even more. So in here, we can search by font name, right? If I check the checkbox for name, then it shows me the fonts that are used in this document. This list will change based on your document too. Okay, I'm going to uncheck that. You can do, font subtype and so on. Font size, right? So you can search by font sizes as well. I'm not gonna. But in the style box, we want to choose bold, right? What's helpful for your documents that use blue and green and stuff like that, you can search by color, right? And then again, if there's blue, green, red, whatever, will be in here as well. So anyways, just check the checkbox for style. Make sure you've got bold selected, right? So now with the wildcards and everything, we're searching for everything that in the table that's in bold, right? You're with me? So now go up and hit find next. And the first thing it finds is the column header, right? So don't hit replace, because otherwise it's going to say therapy class drug, generic drug. Right? That's not right. Now, when you hit find next, it finds the next column header, right, for description. Here's where things get a little bit weird. Yes, development knows. If I hit find next again, oh, they fixed it. Cool. It found the first bold generic drug name, right? So if that's correct, hit replace. Maybe they fixed it. Maybe they didn't. Ah, okay, they didn't. So now it didn't find anything, right? But hit find next again, and you might have to do it a few times, and eventually it will work its way to clonazepam, or however you pronounce that, right? Here's a word to the wise: don't click too fast, because it's easy to go like too far, and it's much harder to back up, right? So you hit find next, it found the next one, you can hit replace, and then just kind of keep hitting find next until it does find the next one, which, there you go, oxycodone, right? So after you replace oxycodone, and you hit find next, look what it found, right? So probably what happened when somebody was authoring this document, they changed the font to bold, they typed in oxycodone, they hit a space, and then they came back later to enter in QLL, right? So this space right here is still in bold. So do you want a screen reader to read that space as a generic drug? Right? So just hit find next to skip over it. And then you keep going through and you find these and you hit replace and just keep going. And eventually you'll work your way through all of them.
What happens if you click too fast and you pass it up?
You have to go back. Pretty much manually is the easiest way to go back. That's why I said try not to click too fast. Yeah. Development knows that this is a thing. They probably have it fixed, but they haven't released the fixed version yet. It didn't used to do this. It used to be when you hit replace, it would automatically go find the next one and it would do it accurately. So they fixed something else and put this feature in instead. You get to the end, right? And you can hit OK. So then, for example, if I click on this span tag for diazepam, then I can see over in the properties panel diazepam generic drug. Make sense? Okay. So for you, for your blue text, does blue mean cut or pasted? Do you know?
It's added text.
Added?
Yeah.
But what is green then?
Green is, I believe, moved.
Okay, added and moved. I thought one was copied or cut and one was pasted. So okay, I can.
For us, red strikeout means
Red
deleted.
is deleted.
Yeah. And then blue underline is inserted.
Okay, so blue isn't.
You just moved text from one part of the paragraph to a different part.
Say that again.
Green just means that you moved the same text unaltered from one part of the paragraph to another part.
I thought y'all indicated like if something was cut from here and pasted over here, I thought like blue meant that it was cut from over here, but green meant it was pasted over here. You don't indicate cut and paste.
It just means like moving around the same text unaltered.
Okay, yeah, okay,
Blue is inserting something brand new.
right. Okay, like,
Usually that's what it's supposed to. Sometimes it doesn't work that way for me, but.
okay, well that's cool. So, well, good, I can tell future stories more accurately. But anyways, now the problem, and this is why Change Pro is great, because it actually says like moved text begins, and then you've got your green text, and then it says moved text ends, right? Indicating what all was moved, right? Because if you search for green, it's going to find green, and you could insert before it moved text begins, but then at the end of green, you have to insert moved text ends, right? And sometimes if it's all word, you know.
Right now, we're not tracking that. All we do is track the inserted and deleted text.
Yeah.
So it's like inserted text begins and then inserted text ends. And then
But Change Pro does that for you, which is nice.
Emphasis.
Well, no, actually Change Pro, because it inserts the text, right, and it inserts it on both ends. So deleted text begins, and then you've got your struck through text, and then it says deleted text ends.
Yeah.
So then you don't even actually have to do this. We had to do this before y'all started using Change Pro.
Or as they try to make it look clean now, so what they do is they highlight the text on one, or the text tag, and use the alt text, and then they paste the actual text into it.
Yeah.
So it reads that way, but to a sighted person, they'll have the original version. It won't have like inserted text begins or deleted text on the actual document.
But do they see like red struck through or blue and green?
They'll see that part, yeah.
But if all they're seeing is, well, the struck through is redundancy for the red, so you can see, okay, well, that was deleted.
Yeah.
But if all you're seeing is blue and green, if you're looking at the document not using assistive technology, and if you're colorblind, you're not going to see what was inserted or what was moved.
We do it with alt text, yeah. Hide it.
But if you're not using assistive technology, you don't hear the alt text.
You don't hear that. That's
So
right.
that's why Change Pro, while cumbersome, is helpful for everybody.
That's right.
Right? So yeah. But anyways, we could get a lot more complex and deal with the all-capped words. We're not gonna, but we could. That's by use of regular expression and all that. And again, you could take classes on regular expressions. So anybody familiar with regular expressions? No? They're like code. They look like computer code, right? And you can use them to find pretty much anything anywhere, but it gets pretty complicated, and we're not going to go there. Right. So there was, I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. Table on page, fair place. I think that's everything. Okay. Any questions on this one? No? I'm going to go to the settings tab and hit reset panels location, kind of put stuff back where I want it to go. And then save and close. I feel like I'm missing something on that. We can come back to it.
So for the uppercase version, we would just match case for the uppercase?
No. What we would need to do is, so there's a regular expression that basically says search for words with 4 or more letters in all caps.
That's your thing, we're not gonna get.
Yeah, because it's like really weird looking code stuff, and yeah. So, but that's what you would do, and then because like different drug names are different lengths, right? So just anything 4 or more letters, and then you're not finding QLL again, right? Because it was in all caps, but it's 3 letters. So if we do 4 or more, then it limits it to just the drug names, and then we can replace with brand name drug.
So if we ever encounter a situation like that, we'll just have Tony come and do it for us, right?
Sure. Sure. Or send me an email. I can help you with it.